We're back with Matt's Top 3, and today we're taking apart our engine.
This thing has been seized since the 90s, so I figured it was time to change that, and I started just by doing a quick cleanup. For reference, I've never tried doing this before, ever, but I still wanted to salvage the block from the original engine when we do the rebuilding of the car, so this is a necessary step. Luckily, I had my buddy with me, so we got to work and started just by trying to hammer in all of the pistons to see if they would move. Because this motor seized, any movement at all is going to count as a win. What we realized way too late, though, was that we didn't have the proper socket for actually trying to turn over the engine, so we had to get that done. But once that was taken care of, we let all the pistons sit in some mystery oil to see if anything would free up. Now, for most of these, we were able to see some bleed through into the pans on the bottom, which meant the pistons would actually move. So all that was left was to just hope and pray that we could get this thing to turn over. So we went back to malleting, with minimal success. So we decided that flipping the engine on its side and forcing the pistons down with gravity might make our lives a little easier. This kinda worked because our biggest issue was piston 7, and we were getting some bleed through, but not enough to get us anywhere. So once again, we continued with the mallets going back and forth until we actually got to the point where these pistons were moving. And with a few more hours of forceful convincing, we were getting this thing to actually turn over. Granted, it wasn't a lot of movement, but it was a lot more than zero. So we just kept going until we hit the point where we were actually moving every piston. And this was a huge win. I'm just shocked that we were even able to pull this off. But a freed up motor meant we could take the timing chain off and actually start working on taking this thing apart. Everything from this point on was much more downhill and a lot more straightforward. The first bit was just taking off these caps, and eventually that led us to get the crankshaft off, which meant all that was left was to work on the cam. Now, this thing was pretty in there, so the first step was just to try to clean it out and get this gasket off so we could actually pull it. Except when we tried to pull it, we weren't sure why it wouldn't come out until we realized it was the lifters that was locking it in place. These first two were pretty easy to get out, but the rest of these were locked in there. So we had to get pretty creative when it came to finding a solution to get these out. But since we're not reusing them, brute force was definitely the way to go. This process was a bit annoying, but it definitely knocked all of these lifters out. Which meant the only thing left to do after so many hours was just pull this camshaft and we were home free, which was pretty easy. And we also found this souvenir on the inside. But just like that, this engine that had been sitting in my Mustang since 1997, fully seized, was stripped down to a block. Which means now, all I have to do is take it to the machine shop and start ordering parts.
Follow this page as I attempt to complete one of my top 3.